Morning, church. I am here for the devotional this morning, and today I am in Cameron Park at the highest place I think you can get in Waco. This past week, the church remembered and celebrated an event that took place in Jesus' ministry, the Transfiguration. It's recorded in the Gospel according to Mark in chapter 9, and there we hear the words of the Gospel writer. It says, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain where they were all alone. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He did not know what to say. They were so frightened. Then a cloud appeared and covered them, and a voice came from the cloud. This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him. Suddenly, when they looked around, they no longer saw anyone with them except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. This is the recording of the Transfiguration that we have in the Gospels, where Jesus took some of the disciples up a mountain. Now the actual mountain, what tradition tells us that the Transfiguration took place in Israel, is much larger and much higher than this mountain here in Waco, if you want to call this a mountain. But just wanted to come up here and talk to you about some things that I see in the scriptures here in regards to the Transfiguration. You know, this takes place after the disciples have been with Jesus for a while, and so they've hung out with him, they know him, they've heard him preach and teach, and yet he goes up to the top of this mountain and is transfigured. And it says that he's transfigured and his clothes become dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. That there was this significant event that took place where Jesus' divinity was shown, his glory was shown to the disciples. Now the disciples had probably been with Jesus for a while, and they still were questioning, okay, is this really the Messiah? Is this who Jesus really says he is? And in this event, Jesus shows his divinity by being transfigured, and his clothes become white as snow, dazzling. It's interesting here that it is not his body or his physical being, but it's actually the clothes that he's wearing. They become dazzling white. And some scholars believe that that's showing what will happen eventually in the climax of all things, when Jesus comes back and the resurrection and everything is made right. Creation and relationships and everything is made right in the sight of God, and they will be dazzling. It will be white. It will be beautiful. There will be no more tears, no more sorrow, no more sickness. There will be just joy and peace, and the kingdom of God will descend upon the earth. It's very interesting that also here the writer says there appeared before them Elijah, Moses, who were talking with Jesus. I think right here we see the significance of what Jesus is coming to and has come to earth to kind of bring together. You have Elijah, who was a prophet, one of the major prophets that we know of, and then you have Moses, who was the writer of the law. So you have the prophets and the law, and then you have Jesus as the culmination of all of that together, that Jesus is the new covenant, that Jesus is there to bring it all together, both the prophets and the law. And then, of course, Peter is close like most of us. Peter sees what's happening and he says, okay, well, maybe we need to build some things. Now remember this, Peter's thinking of the Feast of the Tabernacles. Let's build a tabernacle here. Let's build something. Let's build something to remember this by, 3 shelters. And Jesus is like, oh, I'm not sure we need to build any shelters. This is a mountaintop experience, a very incredible thing. But Jesus turns and starts to go back down the mountain, and he says, don't tell anyone as we go back down the mountain. I think it's interesting that this took place high on a mountaintop. And a wonderful, wonderful experience that was happening there. And I think for most of us, we have those things in our spiritual life. We have those times in our spiritual life when we're on a mountaintop, where we're close to God. We have a spiritual kind of connection. We have a spiritual kind of awakening, and we begin to see things in a different kind of context. And so this is happening for the disciples as they see Jesus, being transformed. But Jesus also tells them, okay, guys, now we need to go back down the mountain, that we can't stay on the mountain, that we have to go back down into the valleys. It's usually in the valleys where we live. I don't know about you, but it's usually in the valleys where we have our being, where we live out our spiritual walk. It's not really on the mountaintops. Now, we have those mountaintop experiences, and I hope you have, and I pray you have, and we look back with them on fond memories, and they give us inspiration, but it is living in the valleys where we mostly spend our time. And it's while we're living in the valleys, we need to remember those experiences on the spiritual mountains, on the mountaintops. It's when we're in the valleys that we remember that, yes, there is a day when Jesus will come back and everything will be made right, that there will be no more sorrow, that there will be no more pain, that there will be no more sickness. Those are the times when we're in the valley, when we're down in the valley living daily, that we need to remember the mountaintop experiences. It's when we need to remember the transfiguration, that yes, Jesus came in his earthly body and he walked among us, and in this transfiguration he was made, his clothes became bright and dazzling, and he was transfigured in front of the disciples. And the next time that Jesus arrives, he will be in all of his glory, and we will see that when he comes. So as we remember the transfiguration, I want you to think about, as you're walking in the valleys, not to forget those times when you felt close to the Lord, when you felt near to the Lord, where you saw him in all his glory, wherever that might be. And remember those things that will give us the power, will give us inspiration to live in the valley each day as his disciples. I hope that you're doing well this week. We continue to pray for each of you, and may God bless you in the week ahead.